Okay, so I guess that's it. Let's start. For me, I want to start with asking Paul about the single action harp. I got really excited about it.
Oh, okay. What would
I
you like to know? I mean,
um I only got to try one twice, just for a little bit. And I think it's a really cool instrument also because it has quite a lot more history than the double action harp. It was around for much longer, and there's so much more repertoire for it, right?
yes, there's a huge amount of repertory for the single action that very few people know it, and it very rarely gets played.
Right? And here we are with the double action pedal harp playing the same things over and over and over and over. And the repertoire for the single action gets ignored. And if it doesn't get ignored, it's played on the double action harp. And I was told by someone that in a summer harp course, and he was teaching Spohr
Mhm.
in a master class, I think. And I remember him saying, you know, single action harpists, they would fold the pedal in the middle and then they could easily press two at the same time. And it was much simpler and they had different techniques. And it really like opened my eyes, you know, they can do different things that I never even thought of. And I want
Yes,
to
there are
ask
some pieces
you,
by
yeah,
Spohr that you can really only get through them on a single action because you can use the technique. You use your toe to fold up pedals you don't need, and then you can get the pedals on either side of that one with the one foot. And also, there are places where Spohr needs you to go from a flat to a natural and from a natural to a sharp at the same time. And you can only do that on a single action because that's how the instrument is set up.
right?
Yeah.
And
So
yeah,
I remember that one of the Spohr pieces was the only thing my second harp teacher, Nan Gullo, ever gave up on because she couldn't get through the pedaling. But it turns out you need a single action.
right? And we never even thought about it. Like you know, when he said that, I was like, you know, it was like a whole new world. Like, ah, I
Yeah,
mean,
history
yes,
is just, it's not as much a part of harp culture. I mean, like, you talk to organists and they know so much about the history of their instrument and the music, and harpists just no idea.
right? We don't. That's really odd for me too. Harpists only know like the last 50 years of harp history. And compared to other instruments, the harp has a much bigger history. And not only we don't know it, but I think that we ignore it a little bit, think it's not important because it's for other harps. And, you know,
Well, there's several things at work there. One is that earlier in the 20th century, there were a lot of articles and books published saying that there was no worthwhile harp repertory before Ravel and Debussy. And there were also opinions on 18th century harp music that were published, but they were only based on a very small sample of study pieces. The people making these opinions really didn't know the repertory. So that's how the history of the harp kind of got derailed.
mhm.
But for me, for a harpist not to know the music of Meyer and Krumpholz is like a pianist not knowing Mozart and Haydn. It's a huge gap.
Right? And I think really so few people know it. I mean, for sure, I'm very sure nobody, at least in my country, knows it.
Yeah,
Maybe in England, you know, it is more known.
We have
Sarah.
somebody here called Mike Parker who specializes in single action um, harp and technique, and he does master classes and things. So we're I guess we maybe know a bit more, and he's done some things at the music colleges in London, masterclasses and workshops. So he's one of the chaps, I think, here. There's also Mike Baldwin, but I don't know quite whether he's in the UK or he's overseas. I'm not sure, but specialising in harp and the history, 18th century, prior, that kind of thing, which is quite helpful.
Yeah.
Because Paul, I don't know if you can hear me. What
Yes.
single action do you have?
Well, first of all, let me preface it that Mike Parker is my duet partner, and we've done a number of concerts of duets for two harps on period instruments. And you can find some of the videos on YouTube. I am also a harp collector, I'm afraid to
All
say.
harpists are harp collectors, right?
Well, I'm
There's
up to
some more than
25,
oh my
so
god.
so I have three Nottermans and two Cousineaus.
Oh,
Wow.
you've got Cusino. What? I've got one. I'm just staring at mine. It's was my grandmother's, but it's
Oh,
Oh, wow.
yeah. Sorry, my cat's just coming in. Yeah, so I've got one that it's not playable, but it's just ornamental. Um, I don't know. I'll try and turn this thing around to see. I don't know the camera. Yeah, so I don't know if you can see in the back. I've got
yes.
yeah,
Wow.
and a Grosjean, but they were my grandmother's, so I haven't bought them.
So
Just inherited
beautiful.
them.
And what really feels a little bit amazing to me about the early harps, they have such a big sound and such tiny bodies. And today, we make everything bigger and bigger. And the sound is really not so much bigger.
Well, there's a couple of things that work there. You have a Wurlitzer DDX
Yes.
in the background. Yes, I have one too. Um, I restrung mine with lever harp strings to get less tension
Same.
on it, and it got a lot louder. I mean,
Yes.
after I did that, I could steamroll a double brass section in orchestra with no problem. It was great. So yeah, it's the lower tension will actually produce more volume rather than less because
Mhm.
it's not holding the soundboard as still as the high tension strings. And also with the disruption in harp building around World War II, the skill of how to make a soundboard got lost. There
Uh,
was, with the disruption
mhm.
in harp building, it didn't get that knowledge was lost in the transition from the old builders to the new builders.
Yeah, I feel that a lot of older harps are really much nicer sounding. Mine is rebuilt by Howard Bryan, who I'm sure you know.
Mm-hmm.
So it is really loud.
Yeah.
And the soundboard is made properly. And then my second harp is the Salve. And there's so little sound. I hate playing it so much.
I like Salvies for solo work because the sound is not large, it is beautiful. But for orchestral playing,
Yeah.
you can't hear them.
The one I have is also not an extended soundboard. So it has a really small sound, but sometimes when we're going on a odd journey, that will be a bumpy road and, God knows how many hours of driving. I don't want to take the Wurlitzer. So I go with that, and then I have to work so hard to get the sound out of it. And now I'm learning the triple harp.
Oh, good for you.
It has been a long dream of mine. I really want to learn the single action harp as well, but one thing at a time because, yeah, money. Because
Money and
money.
just finding an instrument that works is really hard.
We have a new person joining us, Wendy. Hello. Wendy, are you a harpist or a harp student?
I'm just a student.
And how long have you been learning?
Over 20 years, but I started I was 45 when I started, or, around that. So, I'm very slow, but I enjoy it a lot.
If it has been over 20 years, I think you can call yourself a harpist already.
I'm really learning though. I think I'm still intermediate.
But we're all always learning. I'm also
Right.
still learning. I mean, everybody's always learning, right?
Right. I had a lot of fun though. At the beginning, I did get in with my teacher put us in a group and we did perform as a group. So I had a lot of fun doing that. But it's different going solo. You have to work a lot harder.
In a way, playing with others is not easy either. You have to listen very carefully, and playing
Right.
solo, you can cover up your mistakes, right?
I suppose.
So I was asking Paul about single action harps, and he was talking about how the repertoire, although being so important, is not so well known today by harpists. Do you know about the single action harp?
Pardon?
Do you know about the single action harp?
No.
Is there anything you would like to ask Paul while we have him here because he's an expert on it?
Single action harp.
Yeah, it's a whole new instrument.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'll look that
I'd
up.
be I'd be very interested in learning about it. It's my first time hearing that term.
Okay. Well, the single action harp came before the modern double action pedal harp. And it's called single action because you can, with the pedals, you can only raise the pitch of each string by 1/2 step instead of 2/2 steps.
So it is like a simpler version of the pedal harp we have today. But it is not just that, I think. And the reason it gets a little bit dismissed, I think, is because people think it's just a lesser version of the pedal harp, right? But as you were just saying, there are some pieces that can only be played on the single action harp because it has its own little tricks, right? That is so cool, I think. Yeah.
Well, and it has different resources from the modern harp. You can get a lot more different colors, tone colors out of it, depending on where you play along the length of the string. It kind of started with Lyon and Healy trying to build a harp that would stand up to not just the American climate, but the American climate when most houses were heated with wood stoves, which is really hard on harps.
But today
And
it is really
that's where
not
the whole
necessary,
track
right?
towards big and heavy started.
Yeah, we have a new person coming in. Hello, Elif. You're muted. Hello. Elif. Hi, yes.
Yes.
Hello.
Hello.
So you want to learn the harp and you haven't begun yet, right?
Yes. Yes.
That is so
Actually,
nice.
I bought mini lyre harp, so it's very small, and it's not about your subject maybe. But one of my friends told me you can watch and ask something. So I'm listening you.
So I guess we have 3, 4, 5 students here and 3 harpists. I think that's a good balance. And my husband. So let's start from the top and let's go. Who wants to ask a question to who? So from the list I have Selen at top. So I'll ask you first. So Selen, what do you want to ask about the harp? to the harp teacher.
I have a very basic question, and I think anyone can answer it based on their own experience. I'm very interested in learning about the difference in the tone of sound of these lever harps versus the pedal harps.
Okay, so I don't want to talk all the time. So either Emma or Paul, I will ask you that to answer it.
Well, I'll let Sarah go first.
Sarah, right? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I said
yeah.
Emma. I'm sorry.
Sorry, it's okay.
Sarah,
Yeah,
yes.
sorry. You want me to answer that one?
Yeah.
I think, to be honest, I think sometimes it's the instrument and the strings that makes the difference in the sound. I think if you have more of a nylon string, then it sort of is maybe not as clear as if it was a gut string. I don't know. I mean, I've got some, and also I think it depends on the make. You know, the better quality the instrument, I think the better the sound is on the lever harps. But I think, you know, if you're starting off, a lot of people sort of. I'm not averse to starting on the really teeny tiny ones that don't cost very much, because then they're not a big outlay, but I mean, they don't give you the best, you know, sound quality, but, you know, it's a good start. The pedal harps, I think there is a difference depending on the instrument. I mean, I've got my Japanese one here that I'm sitting by, and I mean, that's got its own quality, but then I've got a Lion and Healy back here as well, and then I can hear the difference between the two harps. So I think it, you know, and then I've got the Erard as well, and then that again is a different quality. So it depends on each instrument. I think, you know, how it works really, but again, it's the strings, and it's sometimes the better quality instrument gives you better sound. So I think it's really just down to that. Don't know if that's.
Yeah, I understand. So the pedals don't really make a difference in the sound. It's more for the technical aspect of playing the harp. Is it?
I wouldn't have thought. Well, I mean, the technique is the same, whatever instrument. I think, to be honest, whether you're on the lever to the pedal, but it is, again, dependent on the instruments. You know, the more expensive ones have a good quality sound. Just there, I don't know why, but they do. And sometimes it's also age. I've got, sometimes it's the age of the instrument, but I think the harps since I've bought, you know, they've definitely improved quality. So sometimes the new ones, you could hear they were new, and it took a while to work into. Now I think they start off quite good already, you know, but I think sometimes they mellow. I mean, I can hear a difference if I play my Japanese one here, my Aoyama, and the Lion and Healy, but you know, you can hear a quality, but then that's up to individual ear. You know, sort of, you know, some people might prefer the sound of, you know, the newer one as opposed to the older instrument. It's all perspective. But I think, I don't think there's anything different between, I mean, I was taught one way of technique, and that technique is applied to whichever harp. So, you know, whether I play a lever harp or the pedal harp, is still, the technique is the same. So there are some things that just don't change, in my opinion, but then, you know, we're all individuals. So I don't know, if Paul, what do you reckon?
Yeah, it's more how the harp is built rather than whether it has levers or pedals. I mean, you can certainly build a lever harp that sounds like a pedal harp, and I've heard such a variety of sound from pedal harps too. There's nothing really hard and fast. My best advice, if you're shopping for a harp, is before you spend any money, listen to as many harps as you can and find out just what you like. Because people's tastes are so different, and the variety of harps out there is so big. You need to find the right instrument for you.
So do you think it would be a safe way to, for example, I know I'm renting this harp and I like the sound of it. If I was to purchase a brand new one, is it safe to just buy the exact brand, or would I need to hear individual harps from the same brand, as it might have a different sound in each piece?
Yeah, if you can, try the individual instrument before you buy. Because even with the same model from the same manufacturer, two harps that look exactly the same can sound very different from each other.
Yeah, it's the individual perspective. As I say, like what I like in a sound and what I think works, somebody else might not like it. So it is up to you. But yeah, you know, when you do choose, but yes, definitely listen and don't just automatically think, oh yes, it's this make and that model that I want. You know, you need to listen and try different ones out and see what you like, because you're the one who's got to play it, you're the one who's got to listen to it. So therefore, you know, I think it's up to you to you know, choose what you like and don't just think it's just that make and model, but definitely try a variety.
Thank you so much. Because it's so convenient to just purchase stuff off the internet, maybe this is not the best way to do it for purchasing an instrument.
Well, also it depends also where you are, you know, how accessible it is, you know, to find a harp near you. You know, it's difficult. I mean, there's some things for us it's quite accessible. Here in the UK, we've got a few places to go to, and it's quite accessible. But in some places, you know, people don't have that choice or range, so therefore you have to sort of buy something online and hope it, when it arrives, it's the right thing. But then, you know, it just depends where you are and what you have available. But definitely, if you've got the chance to go and try out, then that is recommended, I would say.
Thank you so much.
Not as accessible for us. But there's always a possibility to find secondhand that you can try and hear, but otherwise. And Sena said, she messaged me that saying she has a question. Wait, we have a message from Wendy. And she said, my triple harp, 36 strings or 25 years old, and so sounds good. How long can one expect a harp to last? Do some last longer than others? I bought the triplet because they said it had a double soundboard, which is stronger than a single soundboard. It has lasted. So I think working as a harp technician, we should ask this to Paul.
How long a harp lasts, a lot of that depends on how well you take care of it. I have an Otterman harp that's 250 years old, and it's still quite playable. After 25 years, I would recommend you restring it if it's never been restrung. You'll be surprised at what a difference that makes in the tone, and also get it regulated. Because after 25 years, the harp has changed shape slightly from the way it started out, and that's going to affect how the levers engage with the strings. But yeah, triplets are very good. I have two of them. I like them a lot.
How do I get it regulated?
Let's see. You are in Canada.
Yeah.
That is a problem. I would get in touch with the nearest college to you that offers harp. You may have to go as far as Toronto. Yeah, I have a friend in Ottawa I can ask, but he's not online now. But yeah, it's a problem finding it because they make it so hard to get across the border. It's very hard for the American technicians to get back and forth. But yeah, I would say call the college or conservatory nearest you that offers harp and find out who their technician is.
What about if we have harp makers you know, in the area? Would they know how to do it? A harp maker?
They should, yeah.
Right. It's, yeah, I haven't noticed any problems, but I'm such a, you know, an amateur. I wouldn't really notice. So I'll ask Triplet too, see what they think.
Yeah, absolutely. They're very nice. They're very easy to deal with.
Right.
One thing I want to ask you too, Paul, about
Yeah.
Wendy's question. She said it has a double soundboard, and I had never heard of that term.
That probably means it's veneered.
Mm-hmm.
So the spruce wood of the soundboard is overlaid with veneer,
But
which
the veneer
helps
was
prevent it
not.
from splitting.
Does the veneer help the strength of? I thought it was just visual.
Um, it helps the strength a little.
Mm-hmm. Because the veneer is paper thin, right? So I
Yeah.
thought it wouldn't have any effect for anything at all.
It depends on the instrument. If you're talking about a high tension instrument, it doesn't really do too much. If you're talking about an antique harp that's strung at low tension, the veneer can do a lot to kill the sound.
Because the antique harps have a thinner soundboard, right?
Yes.
And the veneer would end up making it more stiff, I guess.
It just, I think it's mostly the glue acts as a damper.
Right, because
I measured the
done by
soundboard.
epoxy.
Sorry?
Because the veneer glue is usually, it has to be quite strong, right?
Right, they use some kind of synthetic or plastic-based glue, and it doesn't resonate.
Because the glue has to be rather, how to say, not so fast acting and also not so thick to do the veneer, right?
Right.
So yeah, I see what you mean. So on this note, Sena had a question about harp strings that she messaged me. Sena? Yes.
Hi everyone, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, hello. So I have a question about sound as well.
Yeah.
I wonder, because I want to change my harp strings to vegan ones for personal preference, and I was wondering if there is like a great sound difference, or do you know anything about that?
What's your harp strung with now? Is it strung with gut?
Yes, because I started playing when I was very young and then I stopped. And I just recently realized it's not vegan. And for personal preference, for the next time I change it, I would want it to be not an animal product.
Who made your harp?
Salvi.
Oh, okay. In that case, get in touch with Salvi's and see if they can give you a list of the string diameters for the different kinds of strings, because if you change from gut strings to nylon strings, you need to adjust the string diameters.
Okay.
Because they're different densities, and I can do that conversion, but I don't have the information yet for like the synthetic gut or the nylon gut strings.
Okay, thank you.
Salvi should be able to provide you with a string
So
listing.
it wouldn't be translating as the same diameters.
It depends on the density of the string. I mean, nylon is less dense than gut. So if you're changing from gut to nylon and you need to keep the same tension, the nylon strings have to be 15% thicker than the gut strings were.
That's something I didn't know as well. So thank you for that information.
Thanks a lot.
Yes,
Thank you.
I was thinking, would you just the same diameter? So I
if you
learned
change to the
something
same
important
diameter
today.
from gut to nylon, the strings are going to feel a lot slacker. But if that's what you want, that's fine.
That's really good to know.
Do you think
Thank you.
Do you think it makes a big difference with the sound?
Yes, it does. You get a much better sound from gut. I've heard a number of people say that there's a couple of different brands of synthetic gut strings, like the Nile gut, that are supposed to sound very similar to natural gut.
Okay, great.
I would say
fiber
before you
ones.
restring your whole harp, just get some sample strings and put on in a couple of different octaves so you can see if it's the sound and the feel you like.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
I also saw this thing called the sugar gut. Have you ever heard of it?
I've heard of it. I'm very curious about them because they're supposed to sound just like gut strings.
And made of actual sugar.
Yeah, it's some kind of polymer derived from sugar.
That is so right. You know, when I saw it, I was like, what? Sugar heartstrings? How is that possible? You know?
I don't know. I'm looking forward to getting to try them.
Uh-huh. And they're made in the UK, I guess, right? If I remember correctly.
I think so. The only person I know for sure that has tried them is, again, my friend in Ottawa. And he got one of the Mikal harps from Pakistan, and it came strung with the sugar gut. And he's very happy with it. And, you know, he's a professional musician, so he knows what he's doing.
Then I think I might have seen them too. Because very recently, one of my students bought a Mikkel harp, and the strings, the lower strings, not the ones just before the metal, were different than the ones I saw before when other students had bought Mikkel harps earlier. And I thought, you know, they changed the strings. I wonder what that is. They're yellowish white, not nylon.
That sounds like the sugar gut strings.
So I saw them. Okay. But I thought that they were quite similar to nylon as in sound.
Okay, I don't know. I haven't heard them in person.
What I tried was the Saveris carbon fiber. And they sound pretty similar to gut, I think.
The carbon fiber strings I've tried, they weren't the Savarez, but they were very bright. It was a very brilliant sound.
So my husband also joined. I told him you can join if there's anything you want to ask other harpists, right? And he just sent in the chat this question. He's saying, sorry, I don't have a mic with me here. I want to ask a Rodi question. What is the most crucial thing when you carry your harp from hole to hole along the country? Because he carries all my harps. Yeah. He sort of devised his own way to carry them. And so shall we ask Sarah this? Or Paul, do you have any special tricks for transporting?
I'll let Sarah go first.
Sorry?
Do you have any special harp transport tricks?
Get somebody to do it for you.
Okay, so that is the question. That is your answer. He says, that's me. Are you seeing the chat? I don't know.
That's the trick.
Okay.
I would say two things. One is to get a really good cover, a fully padded cover for the harps. So they're well insulated. It helps prevent the temperature from changing too fast. And the other thing that's made my life a lot easier, because I have to move my harps myself, is make two little like dollies. I just took a section of board about a foot square and stuck a thick piece of foam rubber on the top and 4 wheels on the bottom. And when I'm loading the harp, I just put one where the top of the column is going to land in the car and one where the shoulder's going to land. and then I can just sort of tip the harp over onto the two little dollies and roll it into the car very easily. So that makes it a lot easier.
Column loading before, but I felt it's a little bit dangerous for the gilding.
You can column load. It's not my favorite way of doing things because you're putting so much of the weight just on the top and bottom of the column. It doesn't distribute the weight as evenly. So that's why I like, if possible, loading flat and with thick pieces of foam rubber under sort of, the three corners of the harp.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't move my harps very often, but when I have, I put them flat. I know some people do either put the harp on the back, put it in that way, and like it depends on the vehicle. But I mean, I've always done it putting the harp flat. But I know some people, you can get it's the foam underneath, so you've got a soft cushion underneath, and then just make it as padded underneath, because if you just put it straight in the car, with nothing underneath, it's like its own little sleeping bag and stuff. It's something really padded underneath it just to give it that little bit of protection. And I think nowadays as well with the harp trolleys, you can literally load the harp and angle it in and put it in with the trolley on without even taking the trolley off. I mean, it's changed over the years since I've sort of had to since I started anyway. Before, we didn't have trolleys at all, and so we had to move them ourselves. That's why I've joked about, get somebody to do it for you, because it was having 2 to 3 people just to get the harp in and out of the car. And there was a joke about the harpist always had an entourage, and that kind of was true at the time, but now it's made it a lot easier. A lot of people are able to do the harps load, unload on their own, and without any help. But again, it's the padded covers, it's the column covers, for the top as well. Everything's it's a lot better. I mean, the stuff I had was just canvas covers for the Erards, that literally there's hardly any protection to them. Now all the makes like Salby, Lionel Healy, whatever, they've all got the really thick covers, which is that's a development since when I started. Anyway, I don't know, Paul, if you remember with when you started the covers. I don't recall. I mean, it depends what you started on. I started with the Erards, and we didn't really have thick covers. We had an undercover and then a slightly thicker one, but not padded at all.
There was like well, I actually my first harp that I used for playing out for orchestral work just came with a felt cover. And so I sat down at the sewing machine and made my own cover, because you couldn't get really good waterproof covers then. You had to make them yourself. So that's what I did, was I had about 3 layers of covers I would put on the harp to get it dressed to go out. But now there's, here in the States, there's 4 Seasons harp covers. And I think Mike Parker has ordered a number of covers from them because their prices are so good. It's actually less expensive to have it made in the States and shipped over.
Yeah. So Ruth has a question. Ruth, hello. And she says her questions about fingering when doing a scale. Can you talk about it? So you're just now learning scales?
Well, I'm just a beginner. Seriously, like I said, 6 months maximum. And I'm trying to, I mean, I've got where my fingers need to go, but it's transitioning from you do 4, 3, 2, 1, and then to get the 4th, there's always a break in my scale. And I mean, I've played other instruments, so I know you're not supposed to have a break of 4, so I just, how do you do that? It doesn't seem to come naturally. Is there something I can practice so I can?
Can I show you something? If I turn this round a bit, can I show you? Can you see? I haven't tuned this today. Can you see the hands at all?
Yeah.
So, I mean, basically, there's an exercise I started off with, and it's just basically, as I say, I haven't tuned it today. and then just practice getting the thumb to the fourth finger and then playing the fourth finger and then back. So
You're
just
playing 5 notes.
That's it, yeah. So the fourth finger and then the fourth finger cross, because a lot of people put the fourth finger, I mean, you know, have it so that the fingers, not enough gap.
Yes.
And then the fingers stick up. So you've got to keep your, well, this is the way I was taught anyway. So keep the fourth finger, it's just like a small pivot, you know, so you're just turning so the fingers in. So then because what you want to do is try and minimize as much movement. Now, again, it just depends on technique and who, you know, and different people there, different schools. This is, I learned French method, Renier method. So, I mean, that's it. So we just literally slide along and then you can play that and then just do that. And then just practice that way. So you just build that slow, very, very slowly. And then once you've done that, you can add that. So eventually you get your scale. So 4, 3. But trying to keep the hand still, then you build it up 4, 3, 2, and then you end up with 4, 3, 2, 1. So you keep your hand position. But I mean that's an exercise. I got, as I say, it's Renier method. So I don't know if that's any help. But
how do you spell Gonier?
Renier, R-E-N-I-E. So it's the French method. It's from it's French method.
Okay.
Yes.
Where Grandjani would have learned, I think, French method, and then he would have come to the
She was the greatest.
Yeah, because
because I'm having
exactly
to learn
teach
in
them,
lockdown.
Yeah.
And you know, I don't have access to people physically moving my hand in the right place. And when I watch things on YouTube or whatever, I'm not really seeing how it works. So I think I'm not giving enough space. I think that's a key thing, is to put that space in it, which, thank you. You've just made my life a lot easier, I'm sure.
well, I mean, to be honest, I think a lot of people, when they're beginning, there's so much to think about when you're a beginner. There is so much to think about, you know, or is my thumb up, is this doing it, and or just so many things. But you know, once you've got the shape, you know, you build up with, you know, second finger, thumb, then you add a third finger, then you add the fourth finger, etc. And then when you're doing scales, it's always the 4 to the 3. I think that always the tricky bit. When you do a whole scale, it's easy, but it's getting to do it. So again, it's as I say, it's giving your fingers enough space and room to move. You know, so it's literally just a chain. So you've got your, as I say, it depends, different people, different techniques. But it's literally, you can see the fourth finger just moves slightly. You can adjust it as you put it on the strings with the rest of it. But basically, it's just, and always slow. Everybody seems to want to race and practice and play as fast and quickly as possible. But literally, it's keep it slow, keep it steady. You know, if you, as I say, you've done other instruments, you'll know when you're roughly in time. You know, either use a metronome, don't use a metronome, but do it slowly, because that's the answer. I think that's the key, is everything slowly. Then once you've got everything there, then you can build up speed. That's kind of the last thing you do, is build up speed, you know, but then just be detailed with that. So hopefully that helps.
Yes. And the other thing is the baby finger. I mean, I'm one of those people that cannot, if my baby finger is tucked in, I can't open up my other fingers.
I have the same problem. It's so frustrating.
I have to stick my fingers out. So
yeah, don't worry about honestly, I mean, my fingers do whatever. I don't worry. I never even think about the pinky, as you call it, or the fifth finger. I never think about it. So I just let it do its thing. So I don't know what it does, because I'm a bit too busy with the other 4 to worry about the fifth finger. It's not used. It does its thing. There's no point. I wouldn't, you know, it's like, I don't know, it's doing its own thing now. You know, it depends what you're playing. But I, you know, yes, if you're doing a chord, it sticks out, but I wouldn't worry. I wouldn't try and tuck it in. Just don't think about it. Let it do what it needs to do naturally.
Because I can do it when there's using 3 fingers. I can stick it underneath, but I can't do it if I'm trying to do the 4th finger. It just doesn't seem to stay.
Yeah,
So,
I've never tucked my fifth finger in ever. So
okay.
don't, that's why I'm saying don't think about it. You know, you don't need it, so don't worry about it, sort of thing. You know, it will it will either go in a bit or it sticks out, just depend. You know, if you're doing an arpeggio, it's sticking out now, you know, but I mean, if you stick it in, because I think it's kind of linked to the fourth finger, then if you're worried too much about what the fifth is doing, then yeah, then I think it's affecting what you do with how the fourth is. So that's why just try and erase it. You know, some people might disagree with me. As I say, it's all an individual thing. But I mean, I worry about the fingers that actually play the strings as opposed to the finger that isn't. So I just let my fifth fingers do everything naturally as to what they want to do and just not think about it.
Thank you.
When I
Thank
was
you.
first learning, I really wanted to have long nails, right? And I was learning the harp, so no long nails. So what I started to do was grow my pinky nail. And because it was long, I was kind of holding it like that, right? And I got into this habit of really tensing up my pinky. And I think you really shouldn't tuck it in, as Sarah said, because that creates so much tension for your fourth. But if you do the opposite, if you really push it out in a tense way, you know, if it's just relaxed doing its thing, I mean, Sarah said she's not thinking about it, so I'm sure it's just relaxed, right? In a natural position. But if you tense it in any way, so what Selen was saying about her pinky, she's really tensing it outwards. And I can see that it's tense, you know. And that really affects the movement of your fourth finger. And I wish somebody had told me that before I played like that for 4 years. It took me, it was very difficult to fix it. And I never tried to grow a long nail again, of course.
Because I sort of do piano as well. You can't really have long nails when you play piano as well.
I just, you know, I was a little bit like the one thing I can't ever have, you know.
I know.
But now I can never grow down. But anyway, just I think it's really important to not tense it because the anatomy of your hand, and these are all kind of separate, but these two are connected. And
Exactly.
if you're either tucking it in or pushing it out too much, any of the extremes, it's harmful for the movement of your fourth finger.
Yeah.
It was a really good question, and it was such a good explanation from Sarah as well. It's exactly what I would have said with the scale too. So I guess we're doing the same type of technique, kind of.
Well, I appreciate that because I feel it's a silly question because everybody should know, but it just wasn't clear until now. So thank you. I appreciate the answers.
It's not a silly question at all. Sometimes I see people playing for such a long time and their skills are so uneven. And the reason is, as Sarah said, they don't put space and then they move the fourth. And then these two are kind of, pushed upwards because there is not enough space, right? Or their thumb moves down and then these two again don't have space. And I see this in a lot of people who are playing professionally. I saw it in my country. Maybe the level is not so high in general, I don't know, but I saw it many times here. And I kind of want to go and fix their hands when I see that, you know. That was a really, really good question, I think. Let me see. Any other questions?
I actually have one about the maintenance. Are there any tips to help the strings last longer?
Keep the humidity stable where the harp is. Don't let it get too humid or too dry. And don't let the humidity change too much.
Okay.
That also applies for the maintenance of the harp itself, right? It's not just for the strings.
Right. It's much better for the whole harp if you can keep the humidity from changing too much.
Okay. Thank
So we're almost filling up 1 hour anyway. So my husband asks, as a guitar player, I can do tremolo with 2 fingers easily. How do you do that on the harp? Yes. Do you mean a
mean
trill?
like a trill or
on the same string? On the same string? Well, same string. Nice question.
that's part. Go ahead,
Paraguayan
Sarah.
Harpists, you know, I've seen them do a trill
Yeah.
literally on the one string, and it's literally just with the one finger, but it's not a technique that I guess that we've learnt. Yeah, so South American harpists, I think they have a different way of playing, and I think they can do that tremolo thing just on the one string. But for us, it's a trill, and it's not really, unless Paul knows any different.
Yeah, it's a Latin American technique. It doesn't translate well
Yeah.
to the high tension instruments. You need a very lightly strung harp. But what I'm thinking of is get onto YouTube and look for an old video of Mildred Dilling that was made in the 1940s. Because there's one passage where what she does is she uses synonyms. With the pedals, you can usually get adjacent strings to sound the same pitch. So she does that, and then she had the most amazing 4-fingered trill you've ever seen. So if you, yes, so watch if you want to feel like a total inept beginner at the harp. Look for this video of Mildred Dilling playing, because she was phenomenal. And she did, yeah, you've got the 2 adjacent strings, so you'd play like C with your thumb, B with your first finger, then back to C with your 3rd finger, and then back on B with your 4th finger.
So the 2 strings are the same pitch with the pedals, and then
you can do it as a trill, or you can do a trill on 2 strings that are on the same pitch, because of the way you've got your pedals set.
I saw Sylvain Blassal doing it on 1 string with 1, how did it do it? 1 and then 4, 3, 2, 1 on the same string. And I tried that, and I still have been trying that, but you know.
It's easier if you can do it on 2 strings.
But then depending on the piece you're playing, it might not be possible. I also saw Sylvain Blassal doing it just like a guitar, doing a trill with his fingers stretched out like this at 2 and 3.
What kind of harp was he playing? In a Erard?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, you can get away with it better on the Erards because the string tension is lower.
But it looks so cool.
Yeah. Oh, it's amazing when you see it.
Yeah, I want to find this Mildred Dilling. Do you remember what piece it was?
She does 4 pieces. It was like a short subject for the movies, and she plays 4 pieces in the video.
I'll try to find it. That's really cool. Okay, do we have any other questions? Or should we call it a day? Wendy, do you have another question? And nobody else. Okay.
I think Ruth has a question.
Yeah, I as a newcomer, obviously, to this, where should I put my emphasis in my studies, sort of thing? I'm right now just trying to get my fingering sorted. And my next thing was to figure out scales, because then I could sort of get it into my head. What should I do sort of as warm-ups and that sort of thing? Because I have some books that I've just been playing through, you know, with the 2 or 3 fingers, and then got up to 4 fingers, and I'm doing it just a few different stuff. Is there something that I can look to, a certain set of exercises or something that might be a good thing to be working on?
I've got, I don't know, are you in the States?
No, I'm in Amesbury in Wiltshire.
Oh, sorry. Okay, all right, then you can, have you heard of it? Well, there are some things, there's Irilyn Jones, Pick and Mix, that's a warm-up thing, so that's a book. You can do it, get it online.
How do you spell it?
It's that one, Pick and Mix.
Pick and Mix, okay.
So she's done the first one, and this is book 2. But it's, for beginners, it's just literally gentle warm-ups, etc. You have a look at if it's over here. You've got the Harp Studio. I don't know if I'm allowed to say all of this, but there are different companies in the UK where you can buy music, and I would have a look online. And you can probably get some things if you're going like the technical things. So is it, you've got a lever harp, is that right?
No, I just got a Derwent harp because I
Well, did you get anything?
With the basic thing.
Okay, well, it comes with music. I've just got one myself for a pupil. It's tucked in the corner. But you get you'll have had some downloads, won't you? You'll have got some music already from Derwent harps anyway. They'll send you with the instrument. But I would try. Let's see. As I say, the Pick and Mix. I would try that. Use what they've sent you with the Derwent harp. But try Pick and Mix. I think even the Deborah Frew books, you can start with something and do them. I've got pupils that I've had, and we've started with doing them really slowly, but then we go back on them, and then we do them speed it up because and you can do warm-ups. Everybody sort of likes arpeggios, so you can eventually sort of or something. All that kind of thing. It different warm-ups. Some people do lots of arpeggios as warm-ups. It could be thirds. Just different exercises. But I think if you can try and get into doing 2 notes together, so start with thirds. Sort of just like that. And then eventually you can then do some things with those and make your own warm-up exercises.
Thank you. That's very useful. Like I said, as a beginner in lockdown, it's been really tough because everything has to be done on Zoom or watching YouTube videos or trying to pick things apart with, myself. So it's been a bit of a difficulty, but yeah, I appreciate today though, just hearing people talking about the harp and just sort of hearing other things that I have no clue what you were talking about, but I'm sure at some point it will make more sense. But like I said, I just have like a 20 string one just to start off, because obviously as a beginner, you just don't know, are you going to be good? Do you like it? You don't want to put a lot of money into something that you just don't know if it's going to work out. So.
But eventually, I've got them near to me. Hang on. Eventually, if you haven't got it already, a book standard is the Harp, Rosalind Wrench.
Yeah.
So that's worth doing. I just try and get it secondhand. Sort of you can get it on, the main, online retailer at the moment. There's that book. Harpist is also a good one if you want to read up about the instrument.
Yeah, that's a really good book.
And then there's the Book of the Harp, John Marson. That's also a good one.
I don't have that one.
So there, I've got, I don't know what else I've got up here.
I can also recommend to you, there's a really good exercise book by Maria Grossi.
Okay.
That is like the Harpist Bible for beginners. Sarah, we lost your sound. Sarah, we can't hear you. Can you hear us? Yeah, we lost your sound. Yeah, maybe you can type. Yeah, no, we can't hear you. Oh.
Okay.
Ah!
You're coming
yeah, we
back.
You're back. And gone again.
Oh yes, the Maria Grossi is great. And as you say, it's the Harpist Bible, but with the if you've got the Derwent 20, you have some restriction. So therefore, I would suggest use the sort of stuff that you were sent out, but try, and you might just have to adapt according to that harp. But yes, definitely a Maria Grossi if you've got more levers, but it's more designed really towards the pedal harp. Quite honestly, but the beginning exercises, especially the first 2 pages on the Maria Grossi, is great because that's showing you how to do the hand position as well, and where it all stems from. But yes, I'm just trying to think what else. It's just sometimes, as Paul was saying, people not knowing about the instrument. I think sometimes you might just have a little trawl on your online retailer and see for secondhand books on the harp. I mean, I'm always looking on stuff and seeing what there is out there. As I say, Mike Parker's done a book on single action, which is great. It's in my pile. Yolanda Condonasis has done something on playing the harp, which is quite useful as well. So there's lots of things out there. Not as much as I would like, but there are some things out there.
Well, thank you. It's like I said, I'm very appreciative of today. I thank you everybody for all your information, and I hope you do have some more of these, because now I'm going to try some more things, and I'll have definitely more questions afterwards, I'm sure.
I hope to do this monthly event once a month. If we have more interest and more people joining, we could do it more often. You know, I mean, as I could do it as often as once a week, but then we would have to have people joining, you know. So let's try. I think I will do the next one on February, but since I thought I would continue it, you know, 1 month, exactly 1 month later. Then 13th February is a day before Valentine's Day, but I guess that doesn't make much difference. So I want to do the next one on 13th February. If
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then what I'll do is I'll chop up these videos and I'll put them on the YouTube channel. I'll try to get some more people joining for the next one. And then I hope we can end up, and also I'll do some, as I told Paul in the beginning, I want to do some interviews with harpists and also put it up in that channel. And, you know, featuring different styles and different harps more, you know, rather than just pedal harpists. You know, I want to have all kinds of different harps. They're all beautiful. I don't know, I'm crazy about harps. I'm a little bit. Yeah. I love all harps so much. It's a little bit. Yeah. So one little advice I wanted to give you as well, Ruth, is just, yeah, I will do it the same time because I think this is a really good time because it is not too late. It's not too early for America and it's not too late for Europe. Sort of in between. And one little advice I want to give you is, you know, you can learn a lot of music, you can learn a lot of cool pieces, but right now, the thing you should really learn is really the finger positions. You know, just really focus on your fingers. It doesn't matter so much if you mess up the pieces a little bit, if you don't learn the pieces. So, you know, nothing else matters. But if you got your finger position really firm, then you have that for life, you know. Then also some like the chord shapes, for example. If you learn like the intervals, if you practice the intervals and the fingerings and the chords and different fingerings for them, then you sort of have like a toolbox ready that you can use for all the pieces you learn, rather than running into new things in every new piece you want to learn. You will just be pulling from your toolbox, and you will have so much less work to do to learn that piece, and you will have great fingering and great technique, right? So just really focus on your fingers and making mistakes, and nothing else really matters. Just really, and the chords, try to make them really even, and try to do it so that different chord shapes in your hand, your fingers know them, and different intervals without looking. So you can do an octave or a fifth without really looking too much at the harp. And so you have this muscle memory, and then in the long run you will do so much less work.
Yeah, one of the things that Marie Goossens made me do when I was learning was to play the intervals and say them out loud. So, if you're playing the different intervals that you can play with your thumb and index finger, she would have me play them and say, second, third, fourth, third, second, and then the same thing with each set of intervals, seventh, octave, ninth, octave, seventh, octave, ninth, and it's lasted me ever since.
Thank you.
That is such a good way. I will use that now.
Yeah, you have to do it when nobody can hear you, because otherwise it's really embarrassing. But saying it as well as doing it, it engages a different part of your brain.
That is such a good advice. Thank you. I do it sometimes with tricky pedals. I shout, I don't say it, I shout.
Yeah.
When I'm alone practicing, I say, C sharp. It's like fun. And then I memorize it very quickly. But I never thought of teaching it this way, the intervals. That is such a good way to teach.
If you say it as well as do it, it engages more of your brain.
That is such a good advice. Thank you so much.
Oh,
so, Sarah,
don't thank me, thank Ms. Goossens.
Right? Sarah, what was your last name? Because I see the...
Yeah, sorry,
I want
that's
to
my
credit you when I post a video.
Okay, yeah, that's all my daughters. So my surname is Dejey, D-E-J-E-Y.
Wait, D?
E-J.
E-J.
E-Y.
E-Y. Like this?
Yeah, Sarah with an H. So S-A-R-A-H.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay. Just so just before we close, all right, okay. Paul answered it. Wendy said, what's an interval? Yeah, two notes played together. And if it's, for example, C and E, you can say there are 3 steps in between them. So it's a third, so it's C, D, E, right? And if I play C and E together, it becomes a third. That's an interval. Yeah. Okay. So thank everyone. I thank everyone for joining. It was so great. And even I learned many things today. And a couple of my students who joined learned many things, I hope. And Sarah, you were, and Paul, you're such a good, you're so good at explaining things. It was so fun to listen to you.
Oh,
okay, thank you very much.
My pleasure. It was wonderful to meet Sarah.
Yeah.
we've sort of just passed each other so many times in life, in so many ways.
Right, and then you get to meet through someone halfway around the world.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you so much.
It was so great. So I hope I will see you again, and I hope we will have a lot more participants on February 13th.
Okay, thank you.
So February 13th, same time, right?
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Nice to meet you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.